Hey guys, so here we are today. This is a long wanted visit. We're here going to chat to Ross at Bacchus Brewing. Let's get in and try some 13% pale ales or something.
ABV is proudly sponsored by Convoy, Bintani, Craft Punks Canning and Rallings, labels and stickers.
All right, hey guys, here we are at Bacchus. I'm really excited to talk to Ross, and he's going to show us around the place today. Ross is like a legend in the brewing industry in Brisbane area, and he's got so many beers here, so let's get into it, mate. What do we got? What are you going to show us?
I'll show you around the brewery first.
Yeah.
And we'll get into trying some beers.
100%. Let's get into it.
So this is our new brew house. Been here about a year now, just over a year. So it's a 12 hec brew house.
Yep.
Fitted up with 4 12 hec tanks.
Yep.
And 4 6 hec tanks. But then from our old brew system, we've got half a dozen 6 hec mobile tanks.
Yep.
And half a dozen 240 litre tanks.
Yep.
So we still brew into those because we do a lot of high ABV beers.
Yep.
So generally we're doing a 6 hec batch rather than a 12 hec batch.
Yeah,
Than our sort of core range and lower alcohol beers.
Yeah, okay.
And we've got the Braumeister here for doing the sort of 240 litre
240s.
batches. That's sort of our pilot kit, if you like.
Yeah.
Not that we tend to really do pilot batches.
No,
it's more
it's with
straight
full
in.
send. Yeah. It's a well brewed. We had Lockie on from Well Brewed. Great guy.
Yeah, good guys, and they, certainly helped us. We could have bought obviously cheaper direct, but we didn't really know what we wanted or and
what you needed
out a
also
lot of
sometimes.
the pitfalls
Yep.
and certain things that we were potentially looking at.
Yeah.
They pointed out and said, well, that's actually not going to work.
Yeah.
So when you have no experience of brewing on a big kit, which our entire team doesn't, that's why we're a bit unique, because no one here has big brewery experience.
That's right. Yep.
At the
Well,
moment.
they do now.
Yep.
Yeah.
So it was all totally new, and we didn't know what we needed or what we didn't need.
Yeah.
And also being able to brew big ABV beers easily alongside smaller ones.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd originally from China designed for a much bigger mash tun to do our big ABV beers, then realised we wouldn't actually be able to brew any of our low ones.
Yeah.
Because we would have had a 1 inch
Capacity would have
1 inch grain bed.
And how sort of often are the guys brewing? Is it like every day of the week? Are you 3 days
we
a
brew
week or
twice a week?
twice a week?
Generally.
Yep.
And then up to twice a week on the Braumeister as well for the small stuff, so for events. So
Your brew kit here, like you've bought all this stuff. This isn't small amount of floor space by any means.
yeah.
Did you have to sacrifice some tap room space or some bar space or?
No, this is taking exactly the same room as our old brewery.
Yeah, okay.
So our old brewery, as you may know, was 7 little miniature brew houses that all ran along here.
Yep.
And this area here. So the only thing we changed is we just extended this floor pad out slightly.
Oh, yep.
So the tanks were originally going to sit along here.
Yep.
But it lost us very valuable canning
Access.
and keg cleaning space.
Yeah.
That we'd have to find somewhere else.
Yep.
So we just extended the floor out, which enabled us to have the tanks and also right next to our
Canning.
little mini canning line.
Yeah. Your can line would get used quite often though, right? Because that's part of your Bacchus shtick, right?
That's generally
is to
running
have
three
access.
days a week. That's normally running.
Yeah, because it's to give people access to as many beers as possible.
Yeah, so we can generally everything from keg.
Yep.
And then we've got a little cold room, literally 300 mil from the machine, which is independent. So we turn that down to -1 or whatever we have to do, depending on what we're doing.
Cold.
Super cold, and we can fill up there.
Yeah.
And one person can. Takes about 10 minutes to do a keg.
Okay. You have a really strong online presence, right? Like, is that the basis of having so much canned product?
Yeah, I think people have always got used, because we were very much a smaller batch, multiple brews. People have always liked being able to come and choose from 70 or 80 different beers online to purchase.
Yep.
It's been tough because our model had intended to change a bit, but when we ordered this kit, which was literally sort of at the end of COVID, our predictions were, because we we've always sold our entire stock without any problem.
Yep.
But we've never been able to supply kegs, etc. So our goal was to get out more and supply kegs to trade and build the business up that way. But who are we to know what was going to happen with the market?
Yeah, right.
And it's caused us immense pain, like it has
a
lot of people.
Yep.
We're brewing more, we're sort of making more, but to be honest, it's a real struggle. I mean, we're looking for potential partners and investors at the moment because there isn't the demand for what we can make. So we really have to keep keeping it interesting to get people keen to buy, because now, pre-COVID, there weren't that many people online that were really that interested in the market. Now, your majors and your mountain cultures and things have just gone bang online. So that's really affected what was sort of our model, because it's been diluted now by a million other breweries. So it's certainly tough.
Made it tougher.
Unfortunately, most people go from having a core range and a steady income and then into the specialties. We've always been about the specialties. Coming into the core range at the time we're selling core range is nigh on impossible unless you're prepared to discount it below cost.
That's right.
So
you don't want a loss leader.
It really is a difficult. I mean, our ideal scenario would be to team up with someone who was very much into the core range market, who wants to bring in a specialty brand on top, and then combine the two together, and that could be an awesome team. So, well, having this talk, I'll put it out there.
100%. If anyone's interested,
we're ready to talk to anybody.
That's exactly right. Now, man, I'm looking out here. You've got a lot of cold room space going on out here.
So obviously from predecessor, because obviously on our old system, everything was brewed into 60-litre plastic tubs with liners. So we just had trolleys and trolleys of beer. So I'll sort of show you how it is now. So this is our smaller fermentation room, but rather than being full of trolleys of 8 fermenters on each, it's now our smaller tanks. And rather than the cost of trying to hook them all up and have them everywhere, they just come into a temperature controlled environment and just brew like that in there. So it's quite a simple setup. Bring in here. And my son Josh,
hey mate,
one of our brewers. He's probably smelled the Isla. Into kegs. So we've put these racks in, and we have a little trolley that goes down, that goes up and down. So we actually get a huge number of kegs stored with very little wastage. So as soon as you try and bring a pallet jack or something else, your space disappears completely.
A lot of cold room space is wasted. That up above, isn't it? Like
so we've got the little trolley that comes in, and wind it up, slide the keg off.
It's great.
And out. So I don't think we could get more kegs in the space any other way. And all our cans go into milk crates. Which are stacked up, which have got holes cut in the side for access. And that allows us to have 80 odd different beers there. Which we just
easy pick as orders.
Easy pick and pack. As we go.
Oh, that's fantastic. You reckon we can go and sit down and chat some more about Bacchus and Bacchus's beers? Excellent. Thank you for walking us through your brewery and that now, and you've managed to secure us. Well, we just happened to come at the right time as well.
You've been very fluky with your arrival today, because it wasn't planned.
A couple of exclusive beers that we get to taste before anyone. And
my first tasting officially as well.
Oh, really? Excellent. So what have we got here? This is...
Well, this is a beer that we are so excited about. I think it's probably a first for Australia, maybe even the world, I'm not sure. But this is an Egyptian beer made with sort of authentic ingredients from the time. But we also managed to secure some 4,000-year-old yeast. To brew it with.
So that's from the those archaeologists that like found the pots with the yeast in it? Or
Yes.
I think you were telling me that story's been muddled and it's a
It
different...
has been muddled over time.
Yeah.
So this yeast actually came from bread,
Yep.
entombed bread, and the microbiologist in the US extracted the yeast,
Yep.
and the microbiologist who extracted it made a very small batch of beer
Yeah.
as a sort of an experiment.
Yep.
And I was very, very lucky to be gifted one of the bottles because
Yeah.
of my involvement with the museum, with the exhibition of mummies that was, goodness, in 2018, I think, so it's
Yeah.
going back a few years
Yeah,
now.
yeah.
And I've just had the bottle sat here
Yeah.
for 7 years.
Wow.
And there's a current mummies exhibition going on again that we were looking to brew for.
Yeah.
And I suddenly recalled we had the bottle.
Yeah.
So I sent it off to the guys down at Bluestone Yeast
Yep.
in Melbourne to see if there was any chance that they could revive anything out of it. I wasn't very hopeful, nor
Yeah.
were they, but
Yep.
we gave it a go. And amazingly,
Turns
they've done it.
Yeah.
We brewed the beer. It's only a fairly small test batch because
Yep.
we had no idea if it would be drinkable or not.
Yeah. Yeah.
What I tasted out of the tank, I believe, is amazing. We weren't sure if it was going to be sour or Belgian-esque or how it was going to come out. It has come out slightly Belgian. And I say I've tasted it in the tank. This is my very first taste of it carbonated
Yeah.
in the glass. So
I'm honoured to be just in your presence to be able to do this, but to even get some so. On the nose, you're really getting the pomegranate at first, but when you really dig into it, I'm getting that real nice clove.
Clovey.
Yeah. A little bit of black pepper, and then when you drink it, the mouthfeel is surprisingly quite big.
Yeah.
But it's a dry finish.
So basically, this was almost brewed without hops, but unfortunately, with the ATO and everything in Australia,
You've got to have hops
got to
in.
have that 6 IBUs
Yeah.
hops. So it's just been hopped with a very neutral hop right at the start
Yeah.
of the boil,
Yep.
just to make it legally
Legal.
a beer.
Yeah.
We would have much preferred to have brewed it without,
Yeah.
but it doesn't really have
No.
an effect on the beer.
It's delicious. Yeah.
It's really good.
Are the customers going to get any of this, or are you going to drink too much?
Well, we've got an exclusive release coming very shortly, or by the time this is out, it may
Yep.
have just been released.
Yeah.
It'll be released in bottles and cans.
Nice. Bacchus, how long have you guys been here?
July 2010.
So that's a pretty long stint. Like, you were pretty early in the piece.
Pretty well, really, one of the very first.
Yeah.
I think there was only like Brisbane Brew House
Yep.
in the city.
Yep.
That was sort of really going at the time, if you're
Yeah.
talking craft beer. So when we came in, I mean, there was literally only one place you could sell beer to,
Yeah.
and that was Archive Beer Boutique
Yep.
in Brisbane. And they were the only people you could sell to.
Yeah.
And literally, I think it was literally a month or 2 months after we opened, took it over, the small bar license came into effect.
Yep.
And then places like the Scratch and the M Bar and everything all opened in Brisbane.
Yeah.
And so at that stage, we suddenly were supplying all the very
were
early
able to do-
bars. So we were probably one of the major suppliers
Yeah.
out of Brisbane to all those very young bars at
Yeah.
that time.
Yep.
It's good to see that nearly all still going strong.
Why out here? What was the purpose of? Is this your local area? Do you live around this area, or this was where you could get all the equipment and
Fairly
the
local.
license,
What
or-
it was is Bacchus was here. We purchased Bacchus, so we
Okay.
didn't start it.
Right. Okay.
So it had been here for 5 years as Australia's first, and at that stage only, all grain brought on premise.
Right. Okay.
So they were brewing all grain beers for the general public.
Yep.
But they ended up losing their sort of brewmaster, and I think there was a split up between the owners.
Yep.
So he left with all the knowledge, and they just struggled because they were making all grain beer,
Yeah.
trying to just make the likes of 4X, so it was
Yeah.
a bit of a waste.
Yeah.
Competing with extract brewers who could knock out a beer in 10 minutes
Yeah.
against 6 hours.
Yeah.
So they were struggling, and cut a long story short, I got a call from their accountant one day saying that they were basically going to walk away from the business the following week.
Yeah.
So if I had any interest, get in here.
Yeah.
So I came in, saw them, did a deal, went home and told the wife we now owned a brewery. So it wasn't planned.
No, yeah, right.
It was just on the spur of the moment.
Yeah.
And we picked up the brewery.
Yeah, that's a pretty big leap of faith, isn't it?
It was a big leap of faith. Yes.
Do you get the opportunity to sit back and enjoy it? Like, do you ever take the time and be like, look at what I've done? Like, this is...
I thoroughly enjoy it. I enjoy every day.
Yeah.
I think my trouble is, hit on it earlier, that just recent times have really turned the screw on.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, we were in a position when we were doing the expansion that we had to expand or close.
Yep.
And our budgets for the expansion looked really rosy on paper. But once the brew kit arrived 9 months later,
the world had changed.
The world had changed.
Yeah.
Our repayments had doubled before we even took delivery of the kit.
Yeah, wow.
And everything has just skyrocketed in a very difficult market. So we didn't have the bonus of having the core injector. So we didn't supply to anyone other than our online.
Yeah.
You could only get our kegs really
From
here, and we'd have bars ringing us all the time wanting our beers.
Yep.
But we weren't in a position to supply them. By the time the kit arrived and it got set up in dry July,
Yeah.
at a time where the market had basically collapsed and everybody was distressed selling beer left, right and centre.
Yeah.
So it was not a time.
And a lot of them are selling beer at a loss.
Yeah.
Just to try and survive themselves.
Yeah. And certainly a lot of stuff from interstate where they're not probably affecting their own market, but rather than dump the beer, they're sending it up here and supplying it cheap. And you can't blame the venues for taking the good value beer.
They're trying to kick on as well.
Yeah, because they're all struggling.
Yep.
As I say, we've got 2 hopefully huge releases which will help a bit. I mean, I wish I had far more of this beer.
Yeah.
Because it is a very limited release. There's only going to be probably about 500 bottles and cans total.
Yeah, right.
So I'm assuming it
Definitely.
may well sell out almost overnight.
You would expect so, yeah.
So it's exciting. And, we've got this year's Isla Reserve, which is probably one of our big flagship beers.
Mate, I'm sitting here looking at it over your shoulder as well.
It's holding ahead well.
Yeah, it is, yeah. I'm like,
It's sat there a while. Yeah, so every year it's always been made with Baird's heavy peated malt.
Yep.
100%, nothing else added.
Yep.
No sugars, no nothing. Pure malt.
Yeah.
With a reiterated mash, which just means we mash and get the liquor, sugar, and then use that liquor on the grain again to mash again. Yep. So it's a very expensive beer to make.
Yeah.
But this uses a kilo of grain for every litre of beer. It's an expensive one with a very expensive malt.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, there were fires in the peat house in Scotland there, and the government, I believe, came in and actually stopped the export of peated malt to help the local industry and the shortage.
Yep.
So we actually thought last year was going to be the last year, but we were fortunate enough to grab a batch
got
of
a
grain.
good enough relationship.
That's our good friends at Cryer Malt, who got us Thomas Fawcett's heavy peated malt. And so this year we've brewed it with that.
Yep.
And the malt's gone well because our ABV, it's the same beer every year, but our techniques and everything improve.
Yeah.
This one has come out at a massive 18.3%.
18.3.
18.3%, which is, 1% up on last year.
Yeah. Like, you're well known for doing your big beers and dark beers. What is that by choice, or is it by you just let the beer do what it does and that's how it comes?
It was really brought in by our old brew kit.
Yep.
I mean, obviously we had the ability to brew, we were making single keg batches of beer.
Yep.
So it gave us a chance to
just try stuff,
and if there was a problem, there wasn't much of a financial risk.
Yep.
So it allowed us, and we were brewing, we were bringing out on average over the year over 3 brand new beers a week.
Yeah.
And generally we'd release like 7 new beers every week.
Yeah.
So that was always exploring, always creating, which gave us a great deal of knowledge on what we were doing. But the problem was, as much as we tried to scale up production on the old kit, we could not make more than about 14 kegs a week, which if you were selling those as kegs, wouldn't even support the rent.
No, that's right, yeah.
So we had a definite number of items we could make.
Yep.
If we tried to scale up, the labour was so much, it just took away. We were just working 10 times as hard for 10 times the cost, so it was neutral. There was no point. So the only way for us to make money, because if we sold 18 kegs worth of cans of pale ale, there's still not much in it.
No.
But because we're under the excise limit of those small sizes, by producing high ABV beers, which obviously gave us, maybe not percentage-wise, but dollar-wise, more per can. So instead of making $2 a can, you're making $10 a can. That gave us like a 5-fold increase in production, in effect. So we tended to shift that way because we were at maximum capacity right up to this new brewery coming in. We've always been at maximum. So the way to get the best bang for buck for us to survive was to make the biggest or highest return per can. So that's really what drove it. My passion is drinking English bitters and porters. You know, they're very down the low end of the market, not the big beers. But that was where we brew to survive, and obviously we get a great deal of pleasure as we've learned to develop these flavours, and I think generally regarded as the best of putting in a can what it says on the label. You know, with the flavours and things we do, I don't think we've hardly ever put out a beer that's disappointed people. Not to everybody's taste, but if you want a tiramisu beer or a whatever, then the people who are wanting that experience generally, I think, really enjoy it.
Mate, last question. A lot of brewers have come through Bacchus. It's been a training ground for quite a few people, right? Like when you go to a beer event, are you constantly catching up with people from all and seeing their careers go through all sorts of different ways?
I love seeing where their career's gone, and people, who I've assisted in, brewers I've liked and assisted them in getting jobs and in the industry, some very big names that, I've helped along the way. So it's pretty satisfying, but they always know that. But it's interesting when, half the brewers in Brisbane are ex-Bacchus. I mean, this is the longest time we've kept the crew. I mean, my son Josh, who you met earlier, is on the brew team. He really had no interest in brewing. And he was more wanting the bar here and a bar manager. And because we had one spell, we lost 2 or 3 of our brewers in such a short space of time, because when one went, the others already had set the cover, oh, sorry, I'm going as well. And trying to redo everything and teach someone up, because I guess we've never looked to draw a top brewer here, because they probably want to do their own thing and be, it's a star of the show or whatever. So we've been like a training ground to bring people up and learn, and come with our ethos, I guess. Not be at conflict. I want to do this and do that. So it's just the way it sort of happened. So Josh, Dad, I'll give brewing a go, because we need to keep some stability here in the workforce. But the current crew we've had for many years now, and they are an awesome team. It's a small team, but they're all really good and hardworking, and we get to brew a lot of exciting stuff here. So I mean, anybody comes up with an idea that sounds,
give it a crack, sort of
worth giving a go. We do.
I reckon I've asked all my questions. I could ask a million, but Joel will sit there and be like, wind it up.
I'll sit up here talking beer. Forever. I mean, I love talking beer. I pull the pants off people with it. I love the industry. I honestly wish it wasn't as hard as it is at the moment. I think a lot of us are in survival mode. Some are lucky that aren't, with their position and everything, but with us out here in a bit of a, I shouldn't say a craft beer desert, but it is a bit in the Redlands. It's very much a 4X focused, tradey sort of area. And people get very staunch in their ways. There's nothing wrong with that. I'm very staunch in my English bitters and everything else.
That respect goes both ways.
Both ways, and I have no problem with the mainstream beers, brilliantly made, for what they are. I mean, but there's no point us making those beers, because it'll cost me probably 15 times
no way you
more
could make it Yeah.
expensive for me to make them.
Yep. Yeah, exactly.
So I can never compete.
No.
So we have to bring something different and new to keep relevant and keep people interested.
Mate, I love it, and I love your beers, and this has been excellent.
Thank you for coming down.
Oh, mate, thank you for sharing these two amazing beers with us.
Promo on our brewery. It's very welcomed.
Mate, no, for sure, and I'm going to drink this and go and get a full glass and sit here and enjoy it, I reckon. But, mate,
cheers, mate. Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
And
cheers.
cheers.
Joel.